welcome everybody to the inaugural episode of the Generational Wealth Builders podcast. I got a very special guest today. He's not just locally known, he's known. He's known across multiple areas, so I wanted to get him out here, share the word. We're all about spreading the word about generational wealth, how you can get generational wealth for yourself and your family, and kickstart it for more generations after you. So I'm Chris Lindsay, real estate entrepreneur. Thank you for joining, and we have Anthony Thomas here today. Hey, I greatly appreciate it.
Hey man, it's great to be here, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here, Chris.
Right. So we've known each other for quite some time. I'm gonna let him introduce himself in a minute, but I'm gonna tell you kind of how the first real conversation we had. We knew of each other, and I was living in Moody at the time, and I remember I was on Facebook, I believe, and I saw that you had an open house.
Yep.
In Moody. I'm like, man, I'm like, that's right down the street. I told my wife, I said, hey, I'm about to grab the keys and run over there. He don't know I'm coming. I'm just gonna pop up on him and talk to him. I was like, I know of him, but I don't know him like that. But I know he's in real estate, and I want to chat with him. So I shot over there, and man, we had a long conversation.
Yep.
Just standing there on the porch.
We actually spent the entire time standing outside talking, and didn't have a lot of people come that day. So
Right.
it's when you meet somebody who is so like-minded, that conversation just flows.
Yeah.
And so we started talking, and I looked up, and the open house had actually ended, and we were still talking.
Yeah.
So, I think that's funny. To this day, that's a funny story.
It flows smoothly, but no. So before we get too far, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I'm Anthony Thomas. I was born and raised here in Atlanta. I'm sorry, in Anniston.
You're making too many moves.
Yeah.
You forget where you at.
I currently live in the Atlanta metro area with my wife and my two kids. I am a top 5% in volumes and units when it comes to real estate, rated by Atlanta Realtors Board, which is the biggest board in Atlanta. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm not just an agent. I also flip and build houses as well.
Right.
So that's just me in a nutshell, man.
Yeah. So mentioning the top 5 agents, I remember when you was here working hard and running from Moody to Anniston to Atlanta. So what do you think was the primary steps or the biggest things in helping you grow your business to where it is today?
Managing your time. I'm glad you brought that up, because at that time, what's interesting about that was I was living in Lawrenceville, which is north of Georgia, of Atlanta. So it probably was a 3-hour ride just to do that open house. And so I spent a lot of time when I first started just tearing up the roads, and it took an aha moment to realize, hey, I need to be more proficient with my time. It's not, you can be busy doing something and not getting anything accomplished. And so I just said, hey, let me figure out how to be more proficient with my time doing less.
Right. So doing less, but doing more productive things,
Yes.
things that mean more than
Yes.
just running around. Because
Yes.
I remember at the time, man, you'd be posting Facebook stories, you'd be all over the place. It'd be late nights you'd be out there, but you got to put that work in.
Yes.
On the front end. So what got you into real estate initially?
Initially, it's a good question. I ran a nightclub here in Gaston, but we targeted the Jacksonville crowd of school, and I became really successful with doing that. I got 100% of the door, and I was making money, good money doing that.
Right.
And I started trying to transition that money into concerts. Well, that's a high-risk business, and so what I quickly realized was it's not set up for you to win. So I could make money. I was in grad school. We did Charlie Wilson with another guy. We did very well in Birmingham.
Gotcha.
But then I did 2 Chainz in Savannah, lost. Nobody showed up. Yo Gotti in Atlanta, nobody showed up. And so it didn't take me long to realize that I want to make money, but I don't want to have a lot of risk involved with making money, because I do understand that it takes money to make money.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to some guys. I'm a big fan of whatever it is that you want to do, find somebody that's doing it.
For sure.
And so
For sure.
One of my mentors is in real estate, and he's actually the broker for my license in Alabama. And so he kind of tucked me on his wing, and I was flipping houses with the money that I made. And so it went from that to getting my real estate license, just trying to collect checks on the deals that I was buying. And then it became addictive for me. And so I became an agent. And to this day, it's so funny. I've been blessed with my business, but I've never wanted to be a real estate agent. That's the funny part about it.
Yeah. But that's crazy. And that's crazy. I mean, and the part of get with somebody who's already doing it, that's huge.
Yes.
That was huge for me. I mean, I didn't grow up with the rich uncle or with somebody who would just, hey, gonna hold my hand and show me how to do everything. But you got to go out there and seek it.
Absolutely.
So I went out there and sought out people who were doing it, and you learn a lot. You get to avoid mistakes. Get in the room with people who's doing what you want to do. That's major for avoiding mistakes. That's a gem you just dropped right there. So
yes.
I appreciate you sharing that.
Man, I've learned that everybody doesn't have to touch the stove. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
If I see that you've touched the stove and you know that it's hot and you tell me, then I don't have to go touch it either.
Exactly.
You know, and so that's the key. And I never want to be the smartest person in the room. So I always keep myself insulated with people who are much smarter than me.
Right.
And I'm always learning from them. Because what I've learned is this person could be successful in what they're doing, but they could be doing it totally different from this person over here who is successful as well. So I like to create an all-star cast by taking what he knows, and I put it together my own way. So that's what gives me that knowledge, that way of learning from other people.
Yeah, I mean, that's critical. Because in real estate, there's 1,000 ways to make money in real estate.
Yes.
Be an agent, flipping, renting, it's 1,000 ways. You have to find your niche. So getting out there, like you said, in a group of people who's doing it different ways, you get to pick and pull and develop your own way. And it's going to adjust as you grow.
Yes.
But develop your own way to making money. And so, yeah, that's major. So kind of you're in investing, off the wall question. Give me your best or your worst deal. Give me a deal that was a dream or a nightmare.
I would say this about real estate: there's really never a bad deal if you can figure out how to exit from it.
Exactly.
You know, I'll give you an example right now. I built a house on the west side of Atlanta. Can't give it away. The interest rates went up. It's in an area that it's on the higher end of the price. And so I'm getting ready to refinance it. A guy offered me $100,000 on the asking price on it, and I guess he thought I was desperate. So I always have an exit strategy.
Right.
So I think if you always have an exit strategy in case things don't go the way that you plan, then it's not necessarily a bad or a good deal. Sometimes you just have to ride some deals a little longer than what you anticipated. So I would say the worst deal, though, would be something where it wasn't in the area that I wanted to hold it and let it, because one thing about real estate, if you keep something long enough, even if it's a bad deal,
right.
at some point it will become at least where you can break even.
Yeah.
So I would say it was maybe something in the transition area in Atlanta to where it's sitting and it's always getting broken into and people are stealing stuff. In some areas of Atlanta, the shortage of police happened after COVID to where they just couldn't respond in time. And I think people started to see that. And so they would just hit houses and just take their time.
Yeah. And my worst deal actually falls into that category that you just mentioned. It was a commercial property, but it was so cheap. It was foreclosed. It was in an area that wasn't going up. But I was buying it so cheap, I figured I could make some money. It was worth the risk. It was right across the street from a hospital. If I could get that thing rented out, I would have made a boatload of money just off rent. So bought it, put it out there for rent for probably a couple of years. Nobody bid. Couldn't lock anybody down to rent it. Got tired of holding it. Turned around and sold it for 50% more than what I bought it for. I mean, that's a good nightmare deal.
Right.
I mean, I went 2 years paying a note, but when I cashed out well, but it was worth the risk.
Yes.
So, know your exit strategies. Before you buy, you need to know your exit strategy.
Yep.
For sure.
I think one thing that you said that plays a pivotal role in whether you're successful or not is not every deal, no matter what the price is something that you need to buy. Something can be so cheap and you talk yourself into buying it, and then you end up understanding why nobody else wanted it.
Right.
And so that's a tough feeling. And I've learned to turn down more than what I get. I turn down deals all the time that I just say, hey, I've learned. It's just certain things in my book of experience. Like I bought a house once. It was a beautiful house in Cabbagetown. Cabbagetown is a very expensive part of Atlanta. So I learned two things on that deal. One, it was zone historic. It was a 100-year-old house.
Gotcha.
So I stay away from historic houses.
Red tape.
They are so protected.
Yeah.
You can't change anything. I lost money. I left money on the table on that deal because I could not add to the square footage of it.
Gotcha.
The house was only 800 square feet. It was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, 100 years old. But if I could have popped the top and added square footage, the house was worth 500,000 at 800 square feet,
right?
Just like it was. So if I could have went up, I could have made that a $750,000 house easily. But it was also on a busy road. So what I've learned, I stay away from busy roads because the way this house was positioned, when the light was red, you couldn't get out of the driveway.
Gotcha.
And so people would stop at the light because when the light is red and they would block you in, the traffic would.
Gotcha.
The other side wasn't as bad because the traffic flowed the other way.
Right.
So I learned, again, the best way to learn in real estate is to get with someone who knows, but also just getting started.
Yeah, you have to get started.
You got to get started.
Yeah, that's the big thing. And then I just finished the boot camp, and my students, my whole thing was take action and get started. You studied enough. You know enough to get started. You're going to learn as you go. You're in a boot camp. You have coaching. You have guidance. You know people. Get started, because you keep sitting here studying and watching YouTube videos, you're never going to do anything.
It's so many people that have so much information and they've never done anything with it. And it's actually a term, and I know you know it's analysis paralysis.
Exactly.
Where you just studying and studying and studying and waiting on a perfect opportunity and based upon the knowledge that you've learned, and there's never going to be a perfect opportunity to get going.
What has been the biggest benefit, you think, from you getting into real estate? We know financial look at this, but what is the biggest benefit of just being in the real estate arena?
Okay, so you hit on financials. It all to me still ties back to finances. I can sit here and say, well, I do it for the love of it. No, I do
so
it.
you're gonna make some money. You gonna have to have that money.
I gotta make some money.
Yeah.
You know, with any business, it has to go back to the money. But I really love it because I get bored with things easily, and the one thing about real estate, no two properties and no two deals are the same.
For sure.
So for me, really, it's money, but freeing up my time to have the freedom to do what I want to do when I want to do it. Like today, before I got here, I was able to just say, I said last week, I shot a text to my friend, Ralph Graves, which is my best friend, and he teaches at a school here. I said, hey man, let me just come in and speak to your kids. That freedom and that flexibility. I hated working I worked as a social worker, and I had a cubicle, and I hated feeling like somebody else managed my time.
Yeah.
There's a saying that cubicles are the graveyards of ideas,
right.
And it's so true. It's so many people not living up to their full potential. The biggest thing for me, though, Chris, is what you're talking about is generational wealth.
Yeah.
Like just knowing that I'm paving the way for my kids, you know, with the things that I've learned, and so that I can leave them something other than debt.
Yeah, for sure. And my transition to real estate full time was similar. I was sitting in the cubicle. I had an engineering job. I didn't hate the job, but I started hating the oversight. Mm-hmm. I wasn't an employee. I was a contractor, but still I had somebody trying to put tight oversight over me. And I didn't like it. They start calendar watch. Hey, share your calendar with me. I want to know what you're doing. If I'm not at my seat and there's nothing on my calendar, they start to come by. Hey, where were you? There's nothing on your calendar. You wasn't sitting there. That was a problem for me.
Right.
That didn't sit well with at all. So it got to the point my real estate picked up so much because I'd leave. I'm a contractor. I'm not an employee. If I don't have anything to do, I can leave, and that's what I used to do. So I sat down and told him. I said, hey, I need to tell you today that I won't work 40 hours a week. Mm-hmm. And if I have nothing to do, there's going to be times I need to leave on short notice because I was working off 280 in Birmingham. Mm-hmm. If a property I need to look at in Anniston, I'm hitting 20 quick.
Right.
That's where I need to be. I said, hey, there's going to be times I need to leave on short notice. If that doesn't meet your expectation of a contractor, I'm going to need to put my notice in today.
Right.
His mindset changed quick. Oh, no, we can support it. Just let me know. But after about a month, it really got to the point it wasn't enough time, and I didn't want to burn bridges. Mm-hmm. So I told him, hey, it's gotten to that point. There's not enough time in the day. I need to put my notice in. I'll work as long as you need me to hand over projects, but I'm finna do this real estate thing full time. And sitting in that cubicle, seeing people retire after 40 years from a job, they were excited that they worked for that same company for 40 years, and I didn't see myself doing that. That didn't excite me. So I had to get out of there.
We think so much alike because I used to sit there, and I think the people that I work with, they didn't seem excited. They were just waiting on the time. They were passing the time. And life is worth living, man. What I like about this young generation, what do they call it? The quiet quitting and all the things that they're doing. I think they're to the extreme with what they should be doing.
Right.
But at the same time, I do admire them for having the courage to, if there's something that that's not fulfilling to them,
right.
they don't stay. And I think people never understand your vision. When I left that job, people were telling me I was crazy for leaving. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just knew what I couldn't continue to do.
Right.
And so that's why I'm so blessed that I love what I'm doing, and I've learned to cut out the things in real estate because there's so many things to do.
Yeah.
The things that stress me that I don't enjoy, I don't touch them.
Yeah.
I stay away from them. So
yeah. So we were at another event where we were talking to the youth, and me and you, we stood outside and we talked. We debated a little bit, and we was debating about flips versus rentals.
Okay.
And at the time, you were heavy flip. You was like, "Hey, I'm getting this lump sum money." Now I know you're into the buying hoes as well. What changed your mindset on that?
So I want to stay diverse.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm still big on turning and burning, getting rid of them. I still am. Okay.
Yeah.
But what's frustrating is like I flipped the house on the west side. I had done like 3 or 4 on the street, and I sold that house. I bought it for $120, sold it for $289. I probably put $50,000 in it.
Okay.
Looked a bad deal at all.
West side of Atlanta.
Yes,
We're going to make
west
sure we be clear because it's the difference between west side of Anderson and west side of Atlanta.
That's true. Location is so important.
For
So
sure.
I'm glad you brought that up. So it was the west side of Atlanta, and it was a transition area. That house, it was a challenge to get rid of it at $289. It was worth like $300.
Gotcha.
I sold it at $289. That house today, a couple of years later, is worth like $450. So that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of keen on holding. And there are different strategies out there that I didn't know at the time that I know now, as far as just putting someone in there, let them hold the note as the value goes up.
Right.
It's an easy way to create money for later.
Yeah.
But the key to holding is not holding too long to when the property starts needing more money put into it.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of finding, I learned from a guy I look up to, his name is Gene Johnson. Gene was a top producing real estate agent in Atlanta for years, the #1 in his office, and now he's a builder. And so he's a guy that I still look up to, I talk to all the time. He says that he's holding more because the market, with the rates when they shifted last year, they were kind of forcing you to hold stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were changing our strategies. But he says that when he builds a house, he won't keep it more than 7 to 8 years. And I thought that was interesting. So that's more of my strategy now. So I still will hold, but I won't hold forever.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Yeah, we talked about the early days when you was out there hustling and running around. So how did you go from new hustling agent to top agent in a major city?
All right, so I just sat around and thought about things that could help me grow my business. But I also stayed on YouTube a little bit, and I think I got an idea from one of the agents, just something I've randomly found on YouTube where they sponsored open houses. I'm sorry, they sponsored housewarmings for their clients. So what I started doing, and it's super simple. If you sell a house to a client, obviously they're gonna know other people who want to buy or sell. And so what I would do is I would give my clients $250 towards their housewarming if they chose to do one, as opposed to some other type of gift, like a champagne bottle is what I do now. And then I would say, hey, I'm gonna give you this money, but only thing I ask is that you allow me to attend the event, and I won't stay. I just need to be able to come in. They're able to see who sold you this house, and then give some business cards, and then answer any questions that they may have. Because I'll kind of make it beneficial to my client as well. Because a lot of times people ask you questions about buying a house that you just don't know. They think because you bought a house that you all of a sudden become an expert. So I would take that burden off them as well, and then from that. Because one thing about being an agent is snowballing your business. It may start here, but how do you grow it? So that was a big key component for me, and just really being knowledgeable. If you're knowledgeable about something, people will seek you out. And so once people started having confidence in me, and they say, "Well, I talked to this other agent, and he didn't break it down the way that you do." That's the hard thing about real estate too. Is not giving too much information to where you're on a level now to where it doesn't even make sense to them.
Common understanding. You want them to have a common understanding that they can relate to. So on the marketing piece of it, I know, did you do much paid marketing? I know I used to see your Facebook stories and things. This was back when a lot of people weren't even doing Facebook stories, and I used to have people come, "Hey, Anthony," because they knew I was, he's doing a lot out there, and they got it from the Facebook stories and stuff like that. What kind of marketing did you deploy?
So I did social media. Social media is free. Take advantage of it.
For sure.
Be intentional. You already have these tools, and it doesn't take much to take a picture when you're out somewhere. What's really funny is when I was doing the most, I really wasn't doing any business.
Right.
So I tell client agents, look busy. Perception is what
For sure.
drives this business.
For sure.
So if somebody's new, I fussed at an agent the other day. I said, hey man, you have nothing on your page. You don't have not one post. I said, man, go to a new construction neighborhood. They got a model home. Get you some photos. Act like you're showing the house. All the things that I used to do, I always wanted to look busy because you never know who's watching.
Yeah.
Like people may not ever comment. I sold houses of people say, I've been following you for 2 years, man, before I decided to reach out to you.
Right.
And it's like, well, I didn't even know. It's value in that. Like don't assume that people are not watching those things.
They are.
And continue to keep the ball moving. That's the hardest. It's the mindset more than anything. Encouraging yourself when you don't want to do those things is the hard part. When you're not selling, it's like, man, I just go get another job. That's what so many agents do.
Yeah.
I think it's 70% of agents leave the business after 3 years.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. Just social media, networking. I think in the beginning, going out to networking events, I stopped attending networking events because it just became a bunch of people asking me questions about how to do this and do that.
Right.
But in the beginning, it was good because you can get referrals. As an agent, you can get referrals from other agents that may not work a certain area and things of that nature. So get out there. You have to do those small things in order to become this big thing.
Yeah. And the new agents here at Good Faith, I try to stress that. Social media, like you said, is free. Put some stuff up there. People need to, when they're ready to buy or sell, think of you. And people are watching. Like you said, people be watching, hey man, I saw your stuff on social media and I didn't even know this person for real. Like that's a gem right there that you just dropped. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So going from agent to investor, how is that transition? Where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5?
3 to 5. Listen, the older I get, Chris, the more I've learned. I want to do more, doing less.
Yeah.
So right now where I'm at is I'm trying to make more money doing less work. You won't catch me driving from Lawrenceville to Moody to do an open house anymore.
Yeah. I
look back on those things and those are good ways to get burned out.
Yeah.
We're not machines. We are human. And so a lot of young people, their mantra is, I'm going to outwork you. And I've learned that that's not impressive. Because one thing, I'm big on mentorship. And I have different mentors. I have a mentor that knows nothing about real estate. And I have 3 different mentors. And one thing he said to me one day was, he said, don't be a success in public and a failure in private.
Yeah.
And that was so profound to me because it's like everybody knows me and I'm selling all this real estate, but then I know I'm not spending as much time with my kids as I need to.
Right.
And then when my daughter told me, because I have another mentor that's super successful, he's always told me the one thing he regrets is not spending enough time with his kids. So that's always been my goal, to make sure I never become that.
Right.
Somebody else touched the stove before. Let me not touch that.
Yeah.
And so that's big for me when my daughter told me, hey, Dad, you're always gone. So where I see myself is just my goal is to become a residential developer. That's my goal.
Gotcha.
And just, I won't say transitioning from completely not doing anything as far as an agent, but I can definitely see myself at some point pulling all the way back from being an agent and just referring business, because this takes a toll on you mentally.
Yeah.
It does.
It does. So again, hey, I appreciate you coming. We're going to end this thing on the generational wealth. I know you got your hands in a lot, and I know the goal, because I see how you are with your family, is to set your family up. What does generational wealth mean to you and what you're trying to set up for your family?
It's that knowledge, man, more than anything. I can leave them all the money that I have, but if I don't teach them how to maintain it, at some point I'm not going to be here. And if they don't have any knowledge to maintain, because it's not about what you make, it's what you can keep.
Oh, exactly.
And so for me, my biggest goal is, like, my oldest daughter, she's a junior in high school. She wants to be a nurse. I'm not going to infringe on that at all. I want her to go do that, but I've already told her it's power And if you get to a point with nursing where you're frustrated and you want to walk away from it, you don't have the pressure of staying there, because one, dad will take care of you, but also dad wants you to learn, have your hand in real estate in some capacity anyway.
Oh, yeah.
It goes back to what you said earlier about a lot of times it's not that we don't like these jobs, it's that it's the administration that makes it hard sometimes. Sometimes it's not always the job or the career.
Sure. Yeah.
Who your administration is, they're micromanagers or they have this power trip. So I don't want my kids, that was I can say it was traumatic for me to go to a job every day that I just despised. And I felt guilty because I wasn't performing. There was no interest.
Yeah.
I don't want them to do that. That's my main thing. It's not really the money. You know, the Bible says if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. But if you teach him how to fish, he can eat for a lifetime. Yeah. I want my kids to know how to fish.
Yeah.
That's it. So when I think about wealth, it's not as much about the money. It's the knowledge. Knowledge. When we always correlate the word wealth with just money, and it's not. It's so many other things that are involved with that. So that's where I'm going.
There's, like you said, there's the wealth of knowledge.
Yes.
You can always make money.
Yes.
If you have the wealth of knowledge. And our kids growing up, me and my wife talked about this before. My daughter would never have known me to have a 9-to-5. Mm-hmm. It would always be self-employed by things that jobs or businesses that I've created, and that's huge.
Right.
To grow up, and that's the norm, for your kids to see you living with financial freedom or freedom of time off a business that you grew, you established, is huge, because a lot of us are just used to work, save, retire.
My mom did that. My mom worked 35 years at a job that she hated. And the ironic part about that, she said, I got you a job. I was a senior in high school. And she said, I already got you a job. You want to come down here and work? I'm like, why would I want to do that when I saw how miserable you were?
Right.
We live check to check. And that's the thing, like you just said, we're trying to eliminate the things that we experience. My kids have not heard me say, wait till I get paid, especially my youngest one. My oldest one may have heard that.
Right.
She's 17, I'm going to be honest. But my youngest one, my 12-year-old, when they ask me for things, it's not, well, let me see when I get paid. They're going to get a yes or no right then, because it's not going to be those things matter to me. We're always trying to eliminate the things that bothered us and that we wish we could have worked on. And so one thing you said that was critical was that they never saw you work a 9-to-5. I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we have gotten to this place where a lot of social media likes to shun the person that works the 9-to-5. I say there's nothing wrong. If you want to work a 9-to-5 and you're happy with it and you enjoy it, that's a great life.
Definitely.
It's the people who work in 9-to-5s that say, hey, this is not my interest. I want to do something else. Those are the people we're talking to. And that's why I like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's my favorite book.
Yeah, me too.
I like that book because he's not saying that his poor dad is wrong. He just said that's not a route that he wanted to go. Yeah. His biological father. His rich dad, the businessman, his friend's dad, that's the route that he chose. And that's what I like that book. You can choose either way, but just know that there's another option as opposed to just working a 9-to-5. Oftentimes we grow up just thinking that that's the only option that we have, because we don't see anybody else doing anything else. And so I encourage anybody, if they want to get started in real estate, it's not a real estate book, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it's a mindset book.
It's a mindset book. It was a mindset book. That's when I fell in love with passive income. I got addicted to the idea of passive income. Straight addicted to it. I can make money whether I'm here, in the bed, at the beach, whatever. I got addicted to it, and that's what drives me to grow my portfolio, is that book. And like I said, I tell kids, when I go to talk to the kids at high school, hey, whatever career you have, keep thriving towards it. But no, real estate is an option on the side. You can dig into it on the side. And that's my 9-to-5 is what got me to a financial position to where I could dig into it on the side.
Absolutely.
So don't think just because you're nursing or teaching or engineering or whatever it is, you stuck with that.
Right.
No, build your own brand, build your own financial foundation on the side with real estate. There's a lot of different ways to make money in it. Even having your license don't have to be full time.
I think you said something. I saw an interview on The Breakfast Club where Dame Dash was talking about how he's never worked a 9-to-5 and how his son never worked a 9-to-5. Right. Well, the key question they was asking, that's like one of my favorite interviews for so many reasons. Well, they kept asking him, well, how do you get the money to get started with the business? And his route to it, I ain't going to get into what his route to it was, but it was so unrealistic.
Yeah.
Most people's past does not with that choice of what he chose to do to get his money, right, they don't ride off into the sunset. And so the other thing that I got from the interview was he was talking down on the people like that work for the Breakfast Club, as if they're not successful because they work a 9 to 5. For one, they do that because they choose to. Because right, I know for a fact that all three of those are millionaires. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so one thing I want to share about a 9 to 5, you have to have the money to get started to do your to feed your entrepreneur 1099. And so the one thing that I wish that I would have done when I quit my job working for the state, I just knew that I couldn't do it anymore. I started living off my money that I made from investing in the nightclub and things of that nature. If I would have kept that job longer, keep your money separate. My money to pay my bills, although I could barely pay my bills with my job, at least if I would have used it just for that, it's value in that. Yeah. So I'm not living off my investment money. Yeah. That's one thing that I always tell people. Yeah, it's cool to quit your job, but now you're living off the money that you have. So make sure you have enough and use the job for nothing else other than that, and make yourself go to work and motivate yourself while you continue to work on it. So when you do leave to go do your entrepreneur job or entrepreneurship or whatever you pursue, that you don't have to go back to that job.
Yeah, you gotta have a plan. You gotta have a plan. That's what a lot of people ask me. Okay, how did you quit your job? I want to quit. But what's your plan? You got bills to pay. Mm-hmm. You can't just walk out of there. Like, you got bills to pay. You need. So we'll sit down. Sometimes I'll consult with people to come up with a plan on what it's going to take for you to quit your job. Mm-hmm. Even agents that want to go full time in the real estate, but they have the 9 to 5. They don't just jump out there. If your sales ain't what they need to be, you need to have a plan. You need to, here's what you need to be doing before you jump off, or you're going to be in a bad situation.
Absolutely.
So you got to have that plan. And like you said, ain't nothing wrong with a 9 to 5. Right. You're not a bad person because you do it, but do something to help build your own business on the side, and definitely don't jump off the porch until you're in a position to succeed. Otherwise, you're going to put you in an even worse place.
I found a page on social media. It's a daughter and her dad, and that page is called, I don't know the exact name, but it's Flipping with My Dad. And I just thought it hit me right here. Yeah. Because I'm like, I showed it to my daughter. I'm like, that's what I want you to do. Because no matter what you do in life, I want you to have your hand in real estate in some capacity. Some way. You know, most people, when you run into someone, no matter what it is that they do, they got their hands in real estate if they have some type of wealth. And so it's always a correlation there, you know, and that's what really raised my antennas to real estate as well. People got to have somewhere to stay. I don't care. Right. No matter what's going on in the world, people going to always have to have somewhere to stay. And so that's what I love about it.
Yeah. And what's going to make me, at the end of my career, whenever that is, and I'm done, what's going to make me feel good is not the portfolio I'm sitting on, is if I can look at my kids and see they gain some knowledge from what I've done that puts them in a better place. Mm-hmm. If I can look and see that, I'm going to be smiling. And that's part, like you said, that's part of not the financial generational wealth, but the knowledge, the wealth of knowledge. So, hey, man, you've been dropping gems today, as I knew you would. I appreciate you coming through on fairly short notice. Oh, man. I appreciate you swinging through back to the hometown and coming to talk to us and sharing this knowledge down here.
Hey, man, anytime you want to have me, I'll be here, because this is important. It's important that we give back, you know, and so I thank you for having me. Obviously, you think some way of me to invite me here, you know what I'm saying? And so we've always had that mutual respect for each other, and it's just, I appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, thanks for your time.
Thank you.